Hello everyone, I'm the Quiet F, and this is my recap of Tales of Wedding Rings. So, without further ado, let's recap. A monster of the abyss is attacking a maid, and Sato comes in and slashes it in half. It's the third one he kills, and he wonders how he could do that because the first time he fought, he passed out after killing just one. The sage explains that it was the kiss he shared with Hime. The bond they have as husband and wife translates into power because of the ring, and it's the princess's duty to provide strength to the king in battle. He still won't last that long, but that is why the sage Alabaster is there to heal him. While they talk, a different monster appears in the sky. The sage is scared because that was a knight from the abyss, and when Sato charges, he yells at him to stop, but it's too late. The knight attacks and a gust of wind sends Sato flying, breaking his axe. The sage says they must run, and they storm to the castle while the knight sends two monsters after them. A Knight of the Abyss is a terrible monster capable of using powerful magic, and it being there is a sign that they really fear the Ring King. Alabaster uses his magic and casts a huge stone wall to block the monster's path, but the knight has already caught up with them. Then the prince appears, covers the monster with a blanket and sets it on fire, asking him to run because his carriage is waiting outside. He is worried about Hime, but she is already out. Hime is crying from happiness now that Sato is safe. The prince says they let the monsters reach the inside of the castle, so he had to escape with the princess. Sato thanks him, but he can't pronounce his name, so he says he can call him Marse. Marse asks the sage if the kingdom will be alright. He says the Abyss King is after the rings and the Ring King himself, and when he finds out they're not in the castle, he's probably going to let it alone and begin a search for Sato. But he's worried it's gonna be hard to defeat the monsters without the power of the light, which means only Sato can do it. He still doesn't have enough power to do that, and that's why they had to run. In order to gather enough power to fight the Abyss, Sato needs to possess the other 4 rings. And to do that, he has to marry the other 4 princesses who hold them. He is not sure this is okay, and Hime is even more worried about it. But this is what being the Ring King is all about. They get to an inn where there were only 2 empty rooms. They argue about who is going to sleep with who, but the obvious choice is that Sato and Hime should sleep together since they're a couple. Before going to sleep though, they have to discuss the duties of the Ring King. Long ago, the world was on the verge of succumbing to the dark powers of the Abyss. The hearts of mankind were nearly broken from the endless assault of evil, and many nations were covered by the shadow of death and loss. The Ring King sought to dispel that darkness, and so he forged rings imbued with magic. The 5 rings were the rings of light, fire, water, wind, and earth. With their power, the Ring King fought a long and grueling battle, ultimately defeating and sealing away the Abyss King. Afterwards, the 5 princesses married to the Ring King passed the 5 rings down through the generations within their 5 nations. The set of 5 rings served as proof of the bond between the Ring King and those princesses. And now, the Abyss King has revived and is slowly regaining his power. The duty of the Ring King is to once again obtain the rings from each of the 5 princesses and use their power to seal the abyss. When Sato and Hime get to the bedroom, Hime says Sato doesn't need to worry about what Alabaster had said. The marriages are just a formality. He is about to answer when he feels a sting of pain, and Hime asks him to take off his shirt. He has bruises all over, and Hime thinks it was her fault, because she was the one that chose him. She runs away and Sato follows her, but he finds Marse instead, and he said he just saw the princess pass by. He says he's grateful that she chose Sato, because he was not looking forward to becoming the Ring King. Sato had come from another world just to be there for the woman he loves, and this was no easy feat, so Marse says he should be proud. He says the princess is probably in the garden, and Sato rushes there, while Marse wishes he had Sato's courage. Hime was really in the garden. Sato calls her and declares his love for her. He is there because he decided to go there, it was his choice, and Hime should not feel responsible for that. Hime wishes she had his resolve. She tried to forget her time in his world to fulfill her duty as maiden of the Ring King, and she was even going to marry a guy she didn't know just to save her world. But when Sato appeared, all of her resolve was gone, because she realized she could marry the man she loves. But he would also become the Ring King and have to marry 4 other princesses, and she doesn't want to see the man she loves do these things. Despite all that, she's willing to steal her resolve and fulfill her duty to Sato and the ring as his real wife. Then she asks if Sato will take her as a wife one more time, and he of course says yes. They go to their room and are both really embarrassed because all of that scene has built up the mood for them to do it. Hime says she's ready to be his wife, and Sato makes a move on her. She's lying on the bed and Sato is ready to kiss her, and do more than that. But then he backs away. Hime asks what's wrong, and he says their first time together is supposed to be sweet, and not going with the flow like that. He would not let 10 years of crushing on her go to 8 like that. They went from 10 years of being friends to getting married, so he says they should slowly enjoy the married life. Hime agrees and kisses him. But they were so nervous they couldn't sleep, and Alabaster is disappointed at them because they didn't do anything, even though they've built up the mood so much, which means he was secretly watching them the night before. He explains that what makes the Ring King really powerful are the bonds he makes with his wives, so they must work hard to deepen their bond. Marseille comes and gives them robes to hide their clothes. The clothes from the other world is too much attention. The sage says their first stop will be the hidden village of the elves, Romka. The Ring of Wind is passed through the elves' royal family, but even better than that, according to the sage, elves are a truly beautiful race, and that should really get Sato motivated. But he assures Hime that she is his real and only wife. Meanwhile, in Romka, the elven princess is disgusted by the Ring King, a man from another world. The land of the elves lies nestled in a deep valley that was once viewed as a sacred place where all the knowledge of the world was gathered. However, 50 years ago, Romka was surrounded by a wall of storms that came out of nowhere, and it forbids other races from entering the land. It also lifts up Hime's skirt. The last time Alabaster was there was no wall of wind, which means it was a long time ago. Suddenly, a huge bear appears from the forest behind them, and Sato foolishly tries to get close to it, resulting on the bear getting angry and forcing them to run away. They come face to face with the beast in front of the hurricane, when they hear a voice calling them and offering a place to hide, while the bear goes flying because of the storm. They meet 2 elves who ask what are humans doing there, and the sage thanks the duo for saving them. Sato says he's the Ring King, and he has come to meet their princess. Hime gets scared because there's no guarantee the nations will be cooperative toward the Ring King, but the elves say they're gonna take them to the palace. But they're not sure things are going to work out for Sato. For safety, they have to go through the roots of a tree in order to reach the village, because the little monsters who can cross it don't cause any harm, and the big ones are driven away by the wind. They arrive at the city and enter the palace, and Sato promises Hime he's only doing this to save the world, no matter how beautiful the elven princess is. The doors open, but there's no one at the throne to welcome them. Then, Hime spots someone behind the throne. The princess timidly asks if Sato is the Ring King, which he confirms. And, since Sato and Hime are married, she asks if they've already done it. They get nervous because they think she's asking about them sleeping together, but she actually wants to know if they've already kissed. Sato is flustered, but Hime puts herself together and says that the Ring of Light is already on his hand, and now they seek the Ring of Wind to drive away the Abyss King. But the princess is disgusted because, according to her, touching each other's lips is a nasty thing to do. Then she runs away from the throne room, leaving everyone confused about what the heck had just happened. Well, that was the second episode of Tales of Wedding Rings. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell so you won't miss anything new. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye!